Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
Welcome back, friends, to The Line of Fire. It's Friday, which means you've got questions, we've got answers, but there is major breaking news. We've been right in the midst of it, really from day one, several months ago, as these things were going on. And we want to update you with one of the key pastors involved in the city of Houston right now, as the city has attempted to bully and intimidate pastors. Pastor Steve Riggle, who is senior pastor of Grace Community Church, received a subpoena from the city of Houston requiring, quote, all speeches, presentations, or sermons related to, speaking of the equal rights, so-called equal rights ordinance, the petition, Mayor Anise Parker, homosexuality, or gender identity prepared by, delivered by, revised by, or approved by you or in your possession. Pastor Steve Riggle was one of the leading pastors in the city standing against this ordinance, which would allow a man who identifies as a woman to use a woman's bathroom, among other things, which also opens the door for heterosexual predators as well to use that guise. When the bill was pushed through, despite massive outcry against it, Mayor Anise Parker, the gay activist, mayor of the city of Houston, behind pushing it, she said, "It's personal. This is about me." The bill was pushed through. Pastor Riggle and others helped call for a petition where signatures, over 50,000 signatures, they only needed 17,000 to change. They collected over 50,000 signatures, and then City Attorney David Feldman and others basically disqualified most of the signatures and threw it out. So others, not Pastor Riggle, not these other pastors, then launched a lawsuit against the city, and the city, basically by way of retaliation, has come against these pastors and demanded that they submit their sermons, etc. You just heard that extensive list having anything to do with homosexuality, gender identity. Submit them to the city for inspection. The Attorney General of Texas has said, you better rescind that now. That is, my words, garbage. That is absolute nonsense. You can't do that. The Alliance Defending Freedom has said this is a witch hunt. This is an inquisition. Well, joining me on the air right now, none other than Pastor Steve Riggle, who's been a leading, respected pastor in the city for many, many years. Steve, great to have you back on the broadcast.
Thank you, Michael. Good to talk to you.
Well, Steve, just so other pastors understand, you're a megachurch pastor, one of the largest churches in the region, established there, known for good works for decades. Why get involved with something like this from the start? Why begin to raise your voice against homosexual activism when it's so controversial?
Well, what the mayor and the city attorney would call politics, I would call moral values. I reject the political label totally. The mayor's lifestyle is in the Bible, as well as other people's lifestyles. So that's why it gets preached from our pulpit, because as Paul's charge was to Timothy, to declare the whole counsel of God, that's my charge. And so when you have, in this case, with where it's gone right now, from because of the reasons that you mentioned, and let me add one more, not just the restroom issue, but that we believe this is an unequal rights ordinance because it gives special rights to a group of people who have a lifestyle choice. That's the only difference. And they already have every right all the rest of us have. And so we think that's wrong. We believe in equal rights. And this is not about against a person who is gay, though I disagree with that lifestyle. It's not about a person. It's not a personal thing. It is about not having an agenda, the gay agenda and lifestyle forced on us, and say you have to normalize this, and you cannot speak against this. I reject that. As far as I know, this is still America. It's hard to believe this is happening in the middle of the Bible Belt in Houston.
Yep.
But it is the battle that we have and that we're called to fight.
Now, Pastor Steve, when the state of Texas was asked to vote on the issue of marriage and should marriage be redefined, do you recall what the vote was? I know it was overwhelmingly saying,
yes.
No, we don't want to redefine marriage. What was the percentage?
Yes. Houston, Texas, by constitutional amendment, which is a very onerous process in this state, that means that 2/3 of the Texas House, 2/3 of the Texas Senate have to vote to even put it on the ballot. That means you have to have Democrats and Republicans. So that went through that, and then statewide average, 76% of the state, which would mean it had to be Democrats and Republicans, voted overwhelmingly to define marriage as between one man and one woman. Harris County, which is the principal county of Houston, voted 72%. Harris County is heavily minority, heavily Democratic, which means that there's no way that could have passed in Harris County without Republicans and Democrats voting in favor of it. In 2012, Mayor Parker went to Washington, D.C. She stood with other mayors who endorsed gay marriage, about 100 of them. When she came back, I sent her an email, didn't send it to the press, I sent it to her, and I said, when you took your office, you took your oath of office, you took an oath to uphold the Texas Constitution and to represent the citizens of the city of Houston, Texas. You knew when you took that oath that the citizens of Houston had already decided by 72%, which is overwhelming in this day, an overwhelming majority, that marriage would be between one man and one woman by 72%. Yet you went to Washington, D.C. You didn't say, I'm here as Anise Parker giving my personal opinion, which you would have been entitled to do. You went to Washington, D.C. as our mayor on a trip to meet with other mayors, and as the mayor of Houston, you endorsed gay marriage. You should, as the mayor, if you're going to speak as our mayor respectfully, then you should speak for the people you represent. And we have already said that we want marriage to be between one man and one woman. So I said to her, if you cannot, as the mayor, speak for the people of the city, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. Well, somehow, of course, that made its way to the press. I didn't give it to the press. And that created a bit of an issue here in the city. And ultimately, the mayor then, she went on a several-day just calling us all kinds of different things. Now, remember, this mayor has given us multiple awards for serving the city, told us how great we are. I stood down there in front of the city council and one by one had them all tell us how great our church was, how much we served the city, how we responded in hurricanes. 2 of the astronauts from the Columbia were members of our church, how we've handled all of those things. And now we are every name you could be called. So I didn't respond at all to that for several days. And finally I said to the press, who has been calling me daily, I will respond on Sunday in one service, and I'll answer every single thing the mayor has said. So I did that. In fact, people could go to, I believe it's on our website at grace.tv, and see that. It's a 55-minute response that I read, answering all of the things that the mayor had come against us on. Well, now 2 years later, here we are, and I get a subpoena for my sermons, and I'm not even a party to the lawsuit. Now, I'm not surprised by it, but that's what has happened. And really, Michael, here's the real issue. I mean, obviously, there are First Amendment speech rights here, and this is really important, subpoenaing the sermons of pastors. If this goes through, then all pastors in this country are open prey.
Exactly.
So it's really important. The bigger issue, though, is that 2 people, the city attorney and the mayor, have decided, in collusion with each other, when the city attorney inserted himself in the verification process. Now, I want to make it real clear, regardless of what people may hear from what the city says, that, and the reason the lawsuit was filed is that we carefully followed exactly what you have to do. When we gathered the 55,000 signatures, we then, between Second Baptist Church, where Dr. Ed Young's the pastor, and our church, we went through every signature, verified every one to make sure. If there was any problem, remotely, any issue, we threw it out. So we knew when we took the signatures to City Hall that we had almost double what we needed. that there was no question about. You could read their names, everything. The city secretary, who by the city charter is charged with verifying and approving whether or not the referendum passes and it goes on the ballot, which is all we were asking. Put it on the ballot, let the people vote. She stopped counting at 19,000 because we had already passed the 17,200 mark that we needed. So she said there's no point in counting anymore.
All right, so stay with me, and Pastor Steve's going to take a couple more minutes with us. They present over 50,000 signatures. They only need 17,000 and change. The city attorney inserts himself, says, no, boom, goodbye. Forget law, forget the people.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, Dr. Michael Brown. Get into the Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
You've got questions, we've got answers. Michael Brown here, but before we get to your phone calls, I'm speaking with Pastor Steve Riggle. If you'll go to my website, AskDrBrown.org, and click on latest article, you'll see Pastor Steve's picture. As I wrote an article, pastors of Houston shouted from the rooftops this Sunday. It's been shared, multiplied thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of times on different websites. And we are encouraging pastors throughout the city of Houston to let the mayor's office know this Sunday we are preaching on issues. We'll mention issues regarding homosexuality, gender identity, with truth and compassion. And no, we're not turning the messages over to you to do it throughout the entire city. It would be awesome if it happened throughout the entire nation. Steve, just before we get back to the petition story, how many members do you have in your church now?
About 17,000.
17,000. So, friends, I want you to recognize that this is a pastor who leads a respected megachurch, one of the most respected megachurches in the country. You often hear, megachurches, they don't want to confront issues. They just want to keep people happy. That's a gross caricature. Pastor Ed Young, another megachurch pastor, Southern Baptist pastor, he's on board standing for these issues because, friends, this is not a political issue. It's a moral issue. And I've said for years that the principal threat to our freedom of religion, speech, and conscience is gay activism. We reach out to all people with compassion. Those who identify as LGBT, you're welcome. Let us pour into your lives and bring Jesus to you and bring blessing to your life. But we stand against gay activism. So, Steve, you were explaining that the one counting the petitions, they're used to doing this. They saw the signatures. You had well more than enough. And then without any legal right, as we understand, City Attorney David Feldman inserts himself in the process. And how does he manage to throw out most of the signatures?
Well, the city secretary had prepared her report to the city council approving this to go on the ballot, and she was called into the mayor's office on a Monday morning with the city attorney and asked to add a paragraph to the letter, which she did. She testified to that in a sworn deposition this week, and so they just feel like they can get by with that. So the city attorney said he issued a ruling that it didn't qualify, though the city secretary said that had never happened in her more than 40 years at City Hall as secretary. So the lawsuit was filed to go to court. It's before the Texas Supreme Court right now in a writ of mandamus, emergency appeal. It is also in a state district court, and as a part of that, even though, as I said, the five of us who have been subpoenaed are not even a party to the lawsuit, our sermons and any correspondence with church members, text messages, emails, etc., 17 different categories have been approved by the city attorney. And when the press confronted him, asked him about it, all of this, he said, well, this isn't about, you can actually go see it on a Houston, on the
I watched. I watched.
He said, this is ridiculous. So I guess trampling First Amendment rights, subpoenaing the pulpits of this nation is to this city attorney seems ridiculous. And incidentally, Michael, and you'll be the first to have heard this, we just got, minutes ago, the response when our attorneys filed and said we won't be, they filed a motion to quash the subpoenas. We just got the response from the city that said they will not, they are filing to, they're not dropping this as the Attorney General asked them to. They are going forward on this motion. The only thing, when they said, and people hear that the city has said they're going to narrow the focus, I'll just read you from our attorney here real quickly what it says. The preliminary response modifies the subpoena in only one way, to remove the word sermons from request number 12. It still retains the language, all speeches, presentations related to HERO, or the petition prepared by, delivered by, revised by, or approved by you or in your possession. So the attorney said, removing the word sermons doesn't narrow this in any way, and the subpoena still contains 17 categories of communications, including communications between you and your congregation members. So basically, we're saying no to that. And we think every pastor, every congregation member ought to encourage their pastor across this country to say that. And today, we're putting together a statement that we are hoping will go viral all over the state of Texas and across the country in its own context that says, we have a phrase in Texas that says, don't mess with Texas.
Yes, sir.
So we're putting out a statement that we're asking pastors to read either this Sunday or next. They want to preach on, as you said, which would be a great idea, but to at least read a statement that basically it begins with, don't mess with Texas pulpit. Mm-hmm. And then has a statement to that, and we're hoping that people will read that in New York and say, don't mess with Texas pulpits and don't mess with New York pulpits either.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that we'll see something rise up, because if we will, we can turn this tide.
Oh, the tide, by God's grace, the tide will turn, and the bullying will backfire. Mayor Parker initially said, I didn't even know about this. The city attorney David Fell, we didn't know about this until we read it. And then she defends it on Twitter, and then, no, now we're backing away, and no, it shouldn't have been worded like that, and on and on. Steve, if you could get this statement to us as soon as you have it, you've got my email. If someone from your office could get it to us as soon as you have it, we'll blast it out as well through every media outlet that we have. I heard someone once say that when people try to silence you, you shout louder. This is one of these critical moments in American history, friends. Listen, not just something going on locally in Houston. This is one of the critical moments in American history. It is time for a Jesus revolution based on the gospel, based on love, based on truth. The gay activists bullying and their allies bullying along, it will ultimately backfire. And this is what we've known all along, that those who came out of the closet want to put us in the closet. And the fact is, we are not bowing down, backing down, capitulating, or going in the closet. And every pastor, every leader, if you have 3 people in your congregation or 3 million, you have been subpoenaed. You have been subpoenaed. Someone's trying to bully and intimidate you. This is your time to stand. Pastor Steve, a whole lot of people across the nation are standing with you. Thanks for your courage, your steadiness, and your Christ-likeness in all this. And God's going to do amazing things in the coming days. Look forward to staying connected on this.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to say thanks, because there's probably people listening who have emailed us or gone to our website or called us. We've had an outpouring of that, overwhelming outpouring, and we so appreciate the support.
Well, we are in this together. God bless you, my dear brother. Friends, stay tuned on our website. We will keep releasing further news and updates. And stand with us. Call now, 1-800-278-9978. Together, we're making a difference.